The leather folder sat in front of me that night, heavy as a heartbeat. But before I knew what was inside, before any of it made sense, I had to walk across a stage in front of 3,000 people with an empty row where my family should have been. My name echoed through the speakers at Boston University's commencement ceremony. Marina Elizabeth Hartwell, summa cum laude, Bachelor of Finance. I smiled for the photographer, clutching my diploma, pretending the reserved seats in the front didn't burn like accusation. Around me, families cheered, balloons lifted, tears flowed. I stood alone beside a stranger's grandmother who patted my shoulder and whispered, "Where are your people, honey?" I lied and said they were running late. The truth was simpler and crueler. They just didn't come. That evening, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Dinner at Mistral, 7 p.m. Where? Something nice? We want to celebrate properly." I should have known better. I should have recognized the tone. Distant, formal, like an appointment instead of love. But some part of me, the part that still remembered being small and hopeful, believed this time might be different. I arrived at the restaurant in a navy dress, the one I'd bought on sale 3 years ago, and saved 4 special moments. The dining room glowed with amber light chandeliers, casting soft shadows over white linen and polished silver. My parents sat at a corner table, my twin sister Olivia beside them, phone already angled in her hand like a weapon. My mother, Patricia, smiled tightly as I approached, the kind of smile people wear when they're performing. My father, Richard, adjusted his tie, eyes avoiding mine. Olivia's lips curved into something that wasn't quite warmth. I sat down, and the waiter poured water into crystal glasses. For a moment, silence hung between us, thick and expectant. Then my mother slid a cream envelope across the table. Her diamond ring caught the light. "This is for you," she said, voice steady and cold. I opened it slowly. Inside was a single sheet of legal paper, typed, formal, signed by all 3 of them. "We, the undersigned hereby formally sever all familial ties with Marina Elizabeth Hartwell, effective immediately. No financial obligation, no emotional expectation, no contact hereafter." The words blurred. Around us, couples laughed softly, forks clinked against porcelain, someone ordered champagne. My sister lifted her phone higher, recording. "Smile, Marina," she said, eyes bright with cruelty. "This is your graduation gift." My mother leaned forward. "You've always been so independent," she said. "You don't need us. So we're setting you free." My father nodded once, a sharp, final gesture. "It's better this way." The room didn't stop. The violinist in the corner kept playing. But something inside me went perfectly, utterly still. I folded the paper once, twice, and set it beside my untouched water glass. Then I stood, smoothed my dress, and walked out without a word. Behind me, I heard Olivia's laughter, my mother's relieved exhale, the soft murmur of nearby diners, pretending they hadn't seen. Outside, Boston's spring air hit my face, cool and sharp. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just walked to the nearest bench, sat down, and let the traffic hum around me like static. They thought they'd written my ending. They had no idea they'd just started their own. Growing up in Newton, Massachusetts, I learned early that love in our house had conditions. My twin sister Olivia and I were born 4 minutes apart, but those minutes stretched into a chasm neither of us could cross. From the beginning, the rules were clear. Olivia was the sun, I was the shadow. When we were 7, we both wanted piano lessons. Olivia got a Yamaha upright, delivered to the living room, her name engraved on a brass plaque. I got a used keyboard from Goodwill that only half the keys worked on. When I asked why, my mother sighed. "You're resourceful, Marina. You'll make it work." And I did. I always did. That became the pattern. Olivia forgot her homework. My mother wrote excuse notes. "I forgot mine. Got lectures about responsibility." Olivia wanted a car at 16. She got a silver Honda with a bow on it. I got bus passes and told to be grateful for public transportation. By high school, I stopped asking for things. I worked weekends at a bookstore, saved every paycheck, and learned that self-sufficiency wasn't strength, it was survival. My parents praised me for it in front of others. Marina's so independent, my father would say at dinner parties, as if independence were a choice instead of abandonment. Look at Olivia though, so warm, so connected, she needs us. The subtext was clear. I didn't. College applications arrived senior year, and we both applied to Boston University for finance. The day our acceptance letters came, we screamed together in the kitchen, hugging, spinning, two girls who, for one bright second, felt equal. Then I overheard them that night. I was coming downstairs for water when my mother's voice drifted from the study. "We'll pay Olivia's tuition in full," she said. "Marina will figure it out." "She always does." My father agreed without hesitation. "She doesn't need the help. She's better off learning to stand on her own." I gripped the banister, my knuckles white, my chest tight. I wanted to burst in, to shout, to demand why being strong meant I had to be alone. But I didn't. I went back upstairs, closed my door, and made a promise to myself. I would never ask them for money. I would build everything myself. And one day, they would realize what they'd thrown away. That day just took longer than I expected. College split our lives into parallel tracks that never touched. Olivia moved into a dorm on Bay State Road, all exposed brick and river views. Her room decorated with fairy lights and anthropology throw pillows, funded by our parents. I found a studio in Alston, the kind of place where the radiator clanged all night and the neighbors' arguments bled through thin walls. She called home every Sunday asking for book money, date money, sorority dues. They sent it without question. I worked 3 jobs. Mornings, I opened the campus library, shelving returns under flickering fluorescent lights. Afternoons, I had class. Evenings, I bartended at a gastro pub in Brookline, pouring craft beers for finance brothers who tipped in crumpled singles. Weekends, I freelanced building Excel models for small businesses, teaching myself advanced finance through YouTube tutorials and borrowed textbooks. Olivia's Instagram glowed with brunch photos, formal dresses, beach trips to the Cape. My camera roll was screenshots of deadlines and bank balances. Sometimes we'd pass each other on campus. She'd wave, call out, "You look exhausted, Mar. Maybe get more sleep." Her concern felt like performance, something she said to sound kind in front of her friends. I'd smile back and keep walking. What she didn't know was that every late night, every skipped meal, every hour I spent working instead of living was building something she could never touch. Junio, year, I'd started a small consulting practice. Nothing flashy, just me and a laptop, helping local nonprofits optimize budgets. Word spread. I landed a client in Cambridge, then another in Somerville. Revenue trickled in. I upgraded from ramen to actual groceries. My parents never asked how I was managing. They assumed, as always, that I'd figured it out. And I had. But the cost was a kind of loneliness that didn't have a name. Then, 3 weeks before graduation, everything shifted. My grandmother, Elizabeth Hartwell, my father's mother, passed away quietly in her sleep, at her home in She was 87, sharp until the end. The kind of woman who read the Financial Times over breakfast and played chess with strangers in the park. I'd visited her often during college, taking the commuter rail up the coast on Sundays. We'd drink tea on her porch overlooking the harbor, and she'd ask real questions. "What are you building, Marina? What do you want your life to mean?" She never compared me to Olivia. She just saw me. The funeral was small, held at a chapel near the water. My parents stood stiff and formal, my mother's face hidden behind oversized sunglasses. Olivia checked her phone twice during the service. I sat in the back, crying quietly, mourning the only person in my family who'd ever made me feel like I mattered. After the service, a woman in a charcoal suit approached me. "Ms. Hartwell," she said softly, "I'm Jennifer Chun, your grandmother's attorney. She asked me to contact you after today. There are matters we need to discuss." My mother's head snapped toward us. She stepped closer, voice sharp. Anything regarding Elizabeth's estate should go through the family. Ms. Chan's expression didn't change. "The will specifies otherwise. Marina, please call my office next week." She handed me a card and walked away, leaving my mother's face tight with something I couldn't name. Anger, maybe, or fear. I tucked the card into my purse and said nothing. That night, I sat in my studio, the card resting on my desk under the dim glow of a thrift store lamp. Outside, sirens wailed, the city humming its usual chaos. I thought about my grandmother's hands, wrinkled and steady, the way she used to say, "People show you who they are, Marina." Believe them the first time. I'd believed my family 1,000 times. Maybe it was time to stop. Graduation day arrived with cloudless skies and the weight of endings. I dressed carefully, navy gown pressed, cap pinned straight, the tassel gold against dark fabric. I walked to campus alone, my phone silent in my bag. No good luck texts, no proud parent messages, just the notifications from my consulting clients and a reminder to pick up my diploma cover. The ceremony was held in Nickerson Field, rows of chairs stretching across artificial turf, families clustered in bleachers holding balloons and handmade signs. I found my seat in the finance section, surrounded by classmates whose parents waved frantically, whose siblings shouted their names. The reserved family section in front of me stayed empty. When my name echoed through the speakers, I walked across the stage, shook the dean's hand, and smiled for the camera. The applause was polite, distant. I searched the crowd one last time, some small foolish part of me still hoping. But the seats remained vacant, metal glinting under the sun like accusation. Afterward, I stood near the edge of the field, watching reunions unfold around me. A girl named Sarah introduced me to her parents, who hugged me and said, "Congratulations, sweetheart. You should be so proud." I thanked them and slipped away before they could ask where mine were. That's when my phone buzzed. "Mom. Dinner at Mistral, 7 p.m. We're something nice. We want to celebrate properly." For a second, relief flickered. Maybe they'd just been late. Maybe traffic, maybe something understandable. Primera texted Buck, "I'll be there," and spent the afternoon in my studio, changing outfits 3 times, trying to look like someone worth celebrating. Mistral was the kind of restaurant people saved for anniversaries and promotions, all dark wood and soft jazz, waiters moving like shadows. I arrived at 7 exactly, my palms damp, my heart stupidly hopeful. They were already seated. My mother in a silk blouse, my father in a pressed shirt, Olivia in something designer and off the shoulder. I slid into the empty chair, and my mother smiled that tight, practiced smile. "Congratulations, Marina," she said, the word flat. My father nodded once. "You did well." Olivia didn't look up from her phone. The waiter poured water. I waited for the toast, the questions, the anything that might feel like pride. Instead, my mother reached into her purse and slid a cream envelope across the table. "This is for you," she said. I opened it. The legal paper inside was clean, formal, devastating. "We, the undersigned, hereby formally sever all familial ties with Marina Elizabeth Hartwell." My hands started shaking. Around us, couples laughed softly. A waiter carried a birthday cake to a nearby table, sparklers fizzing. Olivia lifted her phone, recording. "Smile," she said. "This is your graduation gift." My mother leaned in, voice calm. "You've always been independent, Marina. You don't need us. So we're setting you free." My father added, "It's better this way." Tea room spun. I folded the paper slowly, stood, and walked out. Behind me, I heard Olivia giggle, my mother exhale, the soft scrape of chairs as they settled back into their meal. Outside, the city hummed. I walked 3 blocks before I stopped, leaning against a brick wall. The disownment letter crumpled in my fist. They'd done it. They'd actually done it. And for the first time in my life, I felt something sharper than sadness. I felt clarity. The next morning, I woke to 73 notifications. Olivia had posted the video. The caption read, "When your sister's too independent to be family anymore," with 3 laughing emojis and the hashtag graduation goals. The video was 12 seconds, my mother sliding the envelope. My face, confused, then blank. Olivia's voice off camera, "This is your graduation gift." My silent exit. By noon, it had 40,000 views. By evening, 2 million. But the comments weren't what Olivia expected. "This is disgusting. Who disowns their kid at graduation?" That mother, is smiling while destroying her daughter. I hope Marina is okay. Someone even recognized the restaurant. That's Mistral in Boston. Those meals cost $200 a plate, and they did this to her there. The internet, for once, saw the truth. I screenshotted everything. The video, the comments, the timestamp, the view count. Then I called Jennifer Chun. Her office was in downtown Crossing, a small suite with frosted glass doors, and the faint smell of paper and coffee. She gestured me into a chair across from her desk, her expression calm but kind. "I'm glad you came," she said. "Your grandmother left specific instructions." She opened a leather folder and slid a document toward me. "Last will and testament of Elizabeth Marie Hart." My eyes scanned the lines, catching fragments. "To my granddaughter Marina Elizabeth Hartwell, I bequeath the entirety of my estate, valued at approximately $4.2 million, including property, investments, and personal effects." My breath caught. Miss Chun continued, "Your grandmother suspected your family might reveal their true nature after her passing. So she included what we call a character clause. If, within 60 days of her death, your parents or sibling engage in acts of emotional cruelty, abandonment, or public humiliation toward you, any potential claim they might have had to the estate is void." She paused. "They forfeit everything." I stared at the paper. Grandmother had known. She'd seen what I'd lived with my whole life and built a trap. Ms. Chun leaned forward. "Do you have evidence of such behavior?" I pulled out my phone and played the video. Her expression hardened. "This will suffice. Your grandmother was right about them." That night, I sat in my studio, the will on my desk, the video playing on loop. My family had thought they were free of me. They had no idea they'd just destroyed themselves. The legal filing happened quietly. Ms. Chun submitted the will to Suffolk County Probate Court, along with the viral video as Exhibit A, screenshots of comments as Exhibit B, and the disownment letter as Exhibit C. My parents learned about the real will 3 days later. They'd assumed they were in. That's why they'd felt bold enough to disown me publicly. They thought they were cutting loose dead weight, not realizing the weight was holding their future. My mother called 17 times in 1 hour. I didn't answer. My father left voicemails, voice tight with panic. "Marina, we need to talk. There's been a misunderstanding." Olivia texted, "You're really going to do this to us?" I blocked all 3 numbers. Miss Chun handled everything. She filed motions, responded to their desperate attempts to contest, and prepared for the hearing. Your grandmother anticipated this. She told me over coffee one afternoon. She knew they'd fight. That's why the character clause is ironclad. The hearing was set for June 15th. I didn't tell anyone. I just showed up in a gray suit, head pulled back, carrying a folder of my own. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, wood-paneled and quiet, the kind of space where whispers felt like shouts. My parents sat on the opposite side, my mother's face pale, my father's jaw clenched. Olivia looked young, suddenly scared, her confidence stripped away. The judge, a woman in her 60s, with sharp eyes and silver hair, reviewed the documents in silence. Then she looked up. "I've watched the video in question," she said, "and I've read the will. Mrs. Hartwell's intentions are clear." She placed her glasses on the bench. "The character clause is not ambiguous. Within 60 days of her death, the family engaged in deliberate, public humiliation of the primary beneficiary." My mother tried to speak. "Your Honor, we didn't know." The judge raised a hand. "Ignorance of a will's contents does not negate behavior. You disowned your daughter at a restaurant, on video, during what should have been a celebration of her achievement. Whether you knew about the inheritance is irrelevant. You revealed your character, and that, the law She stamped the document. "The estate of Elizabeth Marie Hartwell is hereby awarded in full to Marina Elizabeth Hart. All other parties forfeit any claim." The gavel came down. My parents sat frozen. Olivia's mouth opened, but no sound came out. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just nodded at Ms. Chun and walked out. Outside, the summer sun was bright, almost blinding. I stood on the courthouse steps, breathing in the warm air, feeling lighter than I had in years. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Please. We can fix this. I deleted it without reading the rest. Some things, once broken, don't get fixed. They just get left behind. 6 months later, I moved into a brownstone in Back Bay, the kind of place I used to walk past and dream about. High ceilings, original hardwood, windows overlooking Commonwealth Avenue. My grandmother's furniture filled the rooms, each piece a memory. Her writing desk sat by the window, where I worked on my consulting business, now officially registered as Hartwell Strategy Group. Clients came steadily, referrals from people who respected the work, not the name. I hired 2 analysts, both sharp, both hungry, both from backgrounds like mine. We operated out of a small office in Kendall Square, the walls painted soft gray, plants on every desk, a quiet hum of productivity that felt like home. I started a nonprofit in my grandmother's name, the Elizabeth Hartwell Foundation, offering scholarships to first-generation college students. The first year, we funded 12 kids. Their thank you letters sat framed in my office, reminders of what money could do when it wasn't used as control. My parents sent letters. Long, rambling things about misunderstandings and family and forgiveness. I never opened them. Olivia tried reaching out through mutual friends, through LinkedIn, through a handwritten note slipped under my office door. I donated the note to the paper shredder. One afternoon, I saw her across the street in Copley Square. She looked smaller somehow, thinner, her designer bag worn at the edges. Our eyes met. She started to cross toward me, mouth forming my name. I turned and walked the other direction. Some people teach you what love isn't. That's the only lesson I needed from her. I started therapy, working through years of conditional affection, and learned silence. My therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Patel, said one thing that stuck. You spent your whole life earning love that was never for sale. Now, you get to stop. So I did. I stopped performing. Stopped apologizing. Stopped shrinking to make others comfortable. I bought art that made me happy. I traveled alone to Portugal. I ate dinner at nice restaurants by myself, ordering wine and dessert without guilt. I learned what peace felt like. It felt like waking up without dread. It felt like silence that didn't ache. My consulting business grew. By the end of the year, we hit $1.2 million in revenue. I promoted one of my analysts to partner, a woman named Keisha, who'd worked 3 jobs through community college, just like I had. At the promotion dinner, she cried, "Thank you for seeing me," she said. I smiled. Someone saw me once. Now, I see you. That night, I walked home through Boston Common, the leaves turning gold under the streetlights. My phone stayed quiet. No demands, no guilt, no voices telling me I was too much or not enough. Just the sound of my heels on pavement, steady and sure. They thought disowning me would set them free. Instead, it set me free, and I built a life they'd never touch. If you've ever been told you're too independent to need love, this one's for you. If you've ever walked away from people who only saw your value when they needed something, I see you. Family isn't the people who share your blood. It's the people who see your worth without you having to prove it. My grandmother knew that. She gave me more than money. She gave me permission to let go. Sometimes the greatest inheritance isn't what you receive. It's what you stop carrying. Share your story below if you've ever had to choose yourself over family. Hit subscribe if you believe boundaries are the highest form of and remember, the people who disown you for being strong don't deserve to see how you rise.